Gosh, where do I start? David, first of all, that was a lovely film. On so many levels, I am so grateful to have screened this at our festival. I wanted to find out, first and foremost, you're from New York, right?
Yeah, I'm from New York originally.
Okay.
And I live in LA now.
Okay. So how in the world did you find Jiro?
Well, I wanted to make a movie about sushi for a while, because I just love it. And so originally I was going to make a film about maybe 4 or 5 of the best sushi chefs in the world. And then when I met Jiro through the food writer Masahiro Yamamoto, who appears in the film. And as soon as I went there, I knew that the film had to be about him, because he's really a living legend. And his personality and his whole work ethic, and he's just the man. And so
he is the man.
Yeah, and then with his son also working at the restaurant for him still, I felt that there was a really kind of compelling human story there as well. So the film really became about them, and the setting was the sushi.
And you really hid that until the very, very end. I mean, ultimately, we were pitching this as a story about a man and his pure reverence to the art of sushi, but ultimately, this is a father and son story as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think that the idea of somebody living in their father's shadow resonates with a lot of people, including myself sometimes. So I think that's it really spoke to me, and so I'm glad that that comes through in the film.
As a documentary filmmaker, it takes a lot of work and trust, working with your subject to get them to open up. And in particular, I know in the Japanese culture and in many East Asian cultures, it's hard for them to open up the way that Jiro did. And he really was an open book with you, talking about philosophy and the way that he grew up and everything. So how much time did you spend with him, and how hard was it for him to open up the way that he did to you?
Well, again, I have to thank Masahiro Yamamoto, who, is very good friends with Jiro, and he really convinced him that I was going to make a film that was going to tell his story from his perspective. And I think that Jiro, he's been on TV a lot, all over the world, and, because he's quite famous. And a lot of the time, journalists come to him with the story already worked out in their own minds, and they have their own perspective on it. And he feels that, I think he felt like, I was coming in with a blank slate. I didn't have an agenda other than to just, to tell his story from his perspective.
We know that really why you made this movie is so that you could eat his sushi.
Sure. And, that was definitely a big part of it. I would definitely agree with that.
Sorry to ask, do you speak Japanese?
Choto. I speak a little bit of Japanese.
Okay, so that must have been kind of a challenge, right? Because you had to speak through an interpreter.
Yeah, it was the hardest part of the film. The crew was it's such a small restaurant that the crew was literally just me and a translator.
Oh, so you were, I remember, you're one of the cinematographers, too.
I am the cinematographer.
Oh, you are the cinematographer.
Sorry.
I was going to say, whoever was a cinematographer did a wonderful job, so congratulations on that,
so
too.
Thank you.
And the score, the musical score, just added so much to this. Who scored this film?
Well, it's all licensed music. When, one of the first considerations that I made when, I was making the film was that I wanted all of the formal elements of the film to be as elevated as possible, or at least as close to Jiro's level as possible, both in the photography and then also in the music. And so we chose music from, some of the greatest masters. We have a recording of Tchaikovsky, played by Jascha Heifetz, who's the greatest, violinist and one of the greatest violinists in history. And we have Bach and Brahms. I'm sorry, Bach and Mozart rather, and also Philip Glass music. And the Philip Glass music we specifically chose because I feel like Philip Glass, his music is it's a metaphor for kind of Jiro's work ethic. So it's repetitive, but it's always elevating. The same way that Jiro comes to work every day, he's doing the exact same thing over and over again, but he's always looking for that 1 inch of improvement. And he can only do that by keeping everything as constant as possible. And that's how he's able to honestly appraise how his work is if everything is the same. So he even likes being in the basement of this office building because the air through the filtration system is the same every single day. So if he were working on the ground level somewhere or in a more open air place, on days where it was more humid, the sushi might taste different. And so, you know, he just is always trying to do everything exactly the same. And I feel like Philip Glass, you know, his songs are incredibly, a lot of them are very similar with, you know, different moods or tones. And I just feel like, you know, both Philip Glass and Jiro, I think, have a lot in common as well. So it's just really kind of a perfect fit.
Well, congratulations on your screening at Tribeca Film Festival and as well as Berlin, correct? I wanted to give Kevin a chance to talk about, you know, this documentary, how you got involved in the project, and also getting it out there. I mean, because I would imagine as you're creating this, it's like, who in the world is going to help me distribute and produce this sushi documentary, right? But as we see, it's a lovely piece of art. So, Kevin, you can talk about that?
No, thank you. So before I answer your question, I just want to say, you know, I came to this festival, I think, year 3. I was a baby agent, and Leanne invited me down to speak on a panel, and, you know, it was, you know, a room of like 20 people and like 3 Asians, and we all worked in the business, and, you know, cut to, you know, 10 years later, and I'm just so proud that the first film that I produced, the first documentary, is the closing night of your festival, and, you know, it's a long-standing friendship, so. But yeah, to answer your question, so I used to be a talent agent representing filmmakers and directors as an agency for a very long time. And so I've had a lot of experience in evaluating work and seeing movies and just sort of meeting filmmakers. And David's 3-minute or 5-minute clip on his subject in Judo and the look and feel was introduced to me through a mutual friend of ours, and I immediately knew. I said, okay, there's a movie here. You know, it is very hard to capture one's attention on every level in terms of the visual, the subject. You know, we had a sense of where the narrative was going. That was very important to David because, you know, the fish is wonderful to look at, but where's the tension? You know, is he going to drop it? But, you know, luckily we found the story between him and the family and the restaurant and sort of the passing of the torch. And all of this was so important to David. And so, you know, once I saw it, I knew immediately and shared the footage along with David because I think he was a key cell in the experience or in the excitement of wanting to make the film. So we went to, you know, literally private investors, so founders of, you know, internet companies, you know, Facebook chief strategic officers, and we literally showed them, you know, cuts of the film, parts of the movie, and along the way we just kept building and building, and, you know, luckily, you know, to David's credit, we were able to get to the end, and we, you know, had our world premiere at Tribeca. I'm sorry, our world premiere at Berlin for in the culinary section, and for, you know, this is David's first feature. And so for him to even accomplish that is, you know, as grand, if not greater, than all that Jiro has accomplished. And so we're all very proud of the film, and we've seen the life go from the Berlin Film Festival to Tribeca. We have a wonderful distributor on board, Magnolia Pictures, which is going to take it out in March of next year. Please, just a plug, please tell all your friends we're having our LA screening for the AFI Film Festival on November 4th? November 8th and 9th, so Tuesday and Wednesday at the Egyptian on 4:30 on Tuesday, and then at the Hollywood Ramen Chinese at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. So please tell all your LA friends to come out, and that'll, you know, you had our West Coast premiere and our LA premiere will be there that day.
And I know a lot of people are going to ask, when can they get the DVD? Because we always get that question every single time. And I'm glad that you all are here because the DVD will not be available until even after the theatrical.
Well, so, no one gets their DVD unless they have a movie ticket they bought for the theater. But yeah, so hopefully, you know, I know that Magnolia has grand plans, so this will be a classic theatrical rollout on the 9th of March, and then, you know, presuming, you know, traditional windows, you know, 90 to 180 days later, we should see it on shelf or on iTunes or whatnot.
We can't wait. I want to know, how is Jiro doing? And also, you know, he has such high standards. What did he think about the film itself?
Well, Jiro has no intention of quitting, as you saw in the film. So he's still doing lunch and dinner service every day, and you know, he's very happy doing it, and I think it's amazing. When it came time to show them the film, it was right as we were about to go to the Berlin Film Festival. Maybe we had found out that we had gotten in, and I wanted Yoshikazu, Jiro's son. Jiro doesn't fly anymore, but I wanted Yoshikazu to come to the festival for the premiere. And so I decided, you know, I didn't want to send them a DVD until it was totally finished because we were still coloring it, and I know what perfectionists they are, and so I wanted it to be perfect for them but we had to send them kind of an advance cut because I didn't want them to be surprised. I didn't want Yoshikazu to be surprised in the movie theater. So I sent them a DVD, and then I didn't hear back for 2 weeks. And so I was a little nervous. And then 2 weeks later, I got an email from Yoshikazu, which I had translated, and it had a single request, which was to please blur out his license plate. And that was it.
Oh, wow.
And then, so of course, sure. So then he agreed to come to Berlin, and so him coming to Berlin was sort of the kind of the seal of approval on the film. And unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to go back to Japan, but I'm very much looking forward to doing so, and I think that they like it. Yeah.
I'm sure there are people in this audience who have been to Tokyo before. Has anyone eaten at Sukiyabashi Jiro's restaurant? Of course not, because it takes at least, I can't see. Oh, wow, that's amazing. That is so amazing, because now that we know about this restaurant, I am sure since this documentary, and because he's all over Japanese television, right? I'm sure after this documentary, there are people all around the world who are lined up to go see his, eat his sushi.
Sure, I hope so, but it's so hard to get a reservation there. So I hope that everybody that wants to go there gets a chance to go there. But they see it as they really just did a big favor to me and to let me make the film. And so I'm just so grateful to them.
And one last thing before I open it to questions, I really love the fact that Jiro, he has context because he has seen the industry change over time. And I love the fact that he also talked about the issue of overfishing. And also just the fact that things have changed in the industry. And I wonder if that by him talking about this in this film, do you feel like that's going to make an impact?
Well, I hope so. I hope that there are a couple things that I hope that people get from the movie, especially that scene specifically that talks about overfishing and things like that. And I think that one thing that everybody can do is eat sushi just a little bit less often. And this is something that I learned because I was eating sushi constantly before I made the film. And then when I was there, I realized that, oh my God, I'm actually doing myself a disservice. And instead of eating sushi, 3 times a week or twice a week, try going, once every 2 weeks or once a month, but going to a better restaurant. And I just think that sushi is not really, and as Yoshikazu says in the film, sushi is not really meant to be eaten as just like a kind of a throwaway snack where you're picking it up at Whole Foods or something like that. It's supposed to be a kind of a special occasion because it's a very special kind of food. And I think that just the proliferation of it and how everybody has kind of become so addicted to it is one of the reasons that it's so overfished. And so, and also we want the good restaurants to be able to stay in business and not be driven out by, kind of the cheaper restaurants that are, in it more for just the money. We want to support the artists. So, I strongly recommend eating a little less often, and then when you do eat it at, at a good restaurant.
Okay. All right, that was a great answer. That's a great answer. Okay, so we have time for literally like 3 questions. So if you have a question now for David Gelb or Kevin Iwashina, Craig.
How much of being a sushi chef is raw talent?
How much of being a sushi chef is raw talent?
Well, I think that as Yoshikazu again addresses this in the film, and he says that if you train with somebody who's skilled and you work hard, you're going to get good at it. But if you want to kind of transcend that level where you become, like a real master, talent is a big part of it because you have to be able to tell, you have to be able to detect the balance that you're looking for in order to make, what is it that makes sushi so delicious? It's sort of the space in between the flavors. And so it's all about that kind of balance. And, talent is, you need that in order to be able to detect what that is. And also, in a lot of ways, you can consider talent to be how similar is your taste to the audience that you're providing it to. And Jiro, he makes sushi for himself, but it works because what he likes, everybody else likes. So, I think that's kind of a determination on that. Sorry?
Raw talent is very no pun intended.
Yes, yeah,
right.
I see that.
We got it, Craig.
I'm going to use that. Thank you.
Yes.
I thought that the master chef term was used for chefs that could
serve license, or, you know, that were licensed for fugu. And nothing was mentioned in this about fugu, but I'm assuming that Chef Jiro was licensed to serve it. Do you know?
Oh, you're talking about the fugu, the blowfish. Well, you know, actually, fugu is not really considered to be a classy sushi fish, and so Jiro doesn't particularly even like fugu that much. So it's not really in his repertoire. But I'm sure that he is adept at preparing it.
All right, last question. Yes, Jeff, who is also a sushi chef.
Do I know the actual definition of sushi? Oh, it's a good quiz. I think it's rice. Really. Thank you.
Which is what I think you and I talked about. Like, out of one of the most surprising things that you learned is just how much goes into the rice preparation.
Oh, absolutely. You know, the rice is so critical, and it's the thing that's most overlooked in restaurants. Is the rice is equally important to the fish. And it's the balance in between the two flavors that really is what makes it good. Jiro's rice is a little bit more vinegary than we're used to, probably because he serves classic edomai, which is a Tokyo-style sushi, and he loves silverfish like aji and kohara and saba, which are some of these fish are marinated in vinegar as well, and so he uses the rice and the soy sauce to create this incredible balance between them. And the rice is so delicious because, when they cook this special rice at a specific pressure, and it's incredibly fluffy, but it also always retains its shape, very perfectly in its structure. So you're tasting sort of like a structured cloud of deliciousness when you eat a sushi.
This has become like a Food Network show. Okay, we'll take one more question. I saw some. Yes, over here, Harlan. How hard is it to work for Jiro?
Well, it's difficult, and it's incredibly intimidating for the apprentices. And you'd think that there are people who are coming into his restaurant all the time, begging to work there. But in fact, it's hard to find good people who are willing to kind of there's an incredible personal sacrifice and also an economic sacrifice to working there, because you don't get paid very much, and you are expected to really be available all the time to do this. There's an incredible amount of work in the preparation in the morning. They're all there at 6 in the morning, starting the preparations for lunch, running to the fish market and grabbing everything. So it's difficult, and there's no real room. There's no room for compromise. So it can be tough, and people quit all the time, as you saw in the film, and Yoshikazu talks about it. But if they can, if somebody has the right mentality and really wants to stick with it, then they'll learn a great deal and eventually become a great chef themselves. So they have that kind of dream in their mind, and they're willing to if they have the patience, they're willing to make the sacrifice to do that. And I think that's beautiful, and I wish more people had that kind of patience. And it's difficult today because young people want they want to get rich quick, and they want that kind of instant success. And in a skill-based industry like this, it doesn't work like that. And so the great chefs really have to put the time in. And so I think that's what they have in their mind as they kind of suffer day to day. But yeah, they have a real dream that they're chasing, and I think that's one of my favorite things about the film.
We have another screening here in about 15 minutes, so I'm going to wrap things up. But David and Kevin will be at our after party. So Kevin Iwashina, David Gelb, thank you so much for sharing Jiro Dreams of Sushi with us. Don't forget, on your way out, grab your wristband. We'll see you upstairs at Randy Jones All-American Grill. Thank you all very much.